Well, hello there and welcome back to my channel, or of course welcome to my channel if you're new. If you are new, then hello, lovely to meet you. My name is Alex, and if you are new here, make sure you stick around and subscribe, and if you are already subscribed, please make sure the notification bell is switched on and just so you're notified of every single time that I upload. So for today's video, I have a very long overdue but exciting video because I am finally going to be testing the W7 palettes up against the Huda Beauty nude ones. Now there's a pretty big price difference between these palettes. The Huda ones all retail for £5 each, and you can actually buy all of them for £13, whereas the Huda ones are £27 each. So in this video, I am going to be swatching all of the palettes up against each other to see if there are any similarities, and then I am going to be doing an eye look with a palette from the W7 ones and a palette from the Huda ones. This is obviously the completed look. Don't cheat, but let me know down below which side you think is which. I would love to know your thoughts and if you think there is any clear differences or not. But let's get into the video. So we're going to start off with swatches and then I'll get into the eye look. So if you'd like to see whether the W7 palettes are a dupe of the Huda ones, then please keep watching. So W7 come out with these three palettes maybe a few months ago, a couple of months ago or so, I can't really remember. And they come out with these three nude palettes. We have one in the shade Exposed, one in the shade Uncovered, and one in the shade Raw. And the packaging for them looks like this, and it was pretty obvious that they were duping the Huda Beauty nude palettes. These are what the Huda ones look like. They're just in light, medium and rich. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the palettes that actually dupe each other and we'll swatch them, see if they're any similar, and then at the end I'll do an eye look with one of the palettes from each brand, and we'll see if we can create similar looks on each side. Let's start off with the lighter palettes in the collection. So we have Exposed and we have Light. So let me just show you what these ones look like side by side. Here you go. So I mean, they look almost identical, to be honest. There might be a couple of differences in the tones, but I mean, they look pretty similar to me. But let's get started with swatching these. Okay, so these are the first couple of rows swatching the palettes. Can you tell which swatch is from which brand? Because I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty similar. As I mentioned, there were a couple of differences in tones, but I mean, you know, like, you really wouldn't tell on the eye, I don't think. So the first swatch of each shade is actually W7 and the second one is Huda. So would you be able to tell that that was from a different brand? I'm not entirely sure. This bottom row looks so similar. Like, I literally don't think you can even tell that they're different palettes. Like, oh my goodness, that is crazy. Next ones to swatch are the medium palettes, and this one is called Uncovered and this is just the medium one. So that's what the W7 one looks like. And this is what the Huda Beauty medium palette looks like. So that's what they look like side by side. Yeah, I just think they look really similar. Again, different kind of tones in some of the shades, but let's see what they look like swatched. So these are both of all of the palettes swatched. This one, there are definitely some similarities, but I don't know if you can tell, but some of them have completely different tones, especially like these two here. And these two are different. So there's a lot more differences in this palette, but again, would you really notice if you had them both on your eyes? I'm not entirely sure. Obviously the Huda one is much more pigmented as well, and I did notice that the W7 shimmers are really crumbly, and the Huda ones are obviously not. So there is obviously a difference in quality as well. And the last palettes we have to swatch are the deeper ones in the collection. So we have Raw by W7, which looks like this. And then we have Rich by Huda, which looks like this. And then if we just put them side by side, this is what they look like next to each other. I think these ones do look pretty similar as well. So let's get on with the swatches. So these are the swatches of the two deeper palettes. It's the same again really, like they do look pretty similar. I think this one looks a little bit more similar than the medium palette does. I think the only differences in this one are these two shades, these two shimmers, and maybe these ones here slightly, but apart from that they pretty much look the same. So I am honestly like quite impressed with how well W7 have done to like dupe the like Huda palettes. So let's get to testing one of these on my eyes. So I've just primed my eyes. I used the P. Louise Pro Base in Rumour 02, and I think I'm going to use the deeper palettes for this look. I don't know, I just really like the colours in the deeper palettes, and I feel like I'll be able to create a really nice nudie look with it. So I mean, you can create nude looks with all of these palettes, but I just like the tones of nudes in these palettes. So let's get started. I'm going to do W7 on this eye and Huda on this eye. So firstly, with the W7 palette, I'm going to take this middle shade here and I'm going to put that in my crease. And then for the Huda palette, I'm going to take the middle shade here. Let's see if these look the same. Okay, so I think the Huda one is a tiny bit darker, but there isn't like a major difference. I just think, I'm just going to go back in with this Huda one, the W7 one. I just think maybe this one is a little bit lighter in colour, and the Huda one was much more pigmented than the W7 one. So to blend this out from the W7 palette, I'm going to take this top left shade here. And then from the Huda palette, I'm going to take the shade that's in the same position. Oh my god, who's heard Ariana Grande's new song Positions? I'm literally obsessed with it. I really want to see her in person, like in concert. So I'm just going to use this to blend out the crease shade. I think you can tell the difference in shades. However, same question I've been asking, is it really too much of a difference for you to notice? I feel like Huda palettes are a little bit more pink toned, and this W7 one is not. I don't know if it's because it's not as pigmented as the Huda one, but it doesn't look as pink. But now that I've just done that, they actually do look pretty much bang on similar. Not really spotting any major differences so far now that I've blended all of that together. Okay, so we're going to deepen the inner and outer corners. So I'm going to take this shade here from the W7 palette. It is quite dark, but we will work with it. And I'm just going to stamp this in my inner and outer corners. And then from the Huda palette, I'm going to take the same shade in the same position, this one here. I'm worried this is going to be so much more pigmented, but the W7 one actually was really good. Okay, I think now you can tell which side is which, definitely, because this Huda side is just so much more pigmented than the W7 side. That being said, the W7 one doesn't look far off this one. I just think that it is because the Huda one is so much more pigmented than the W7 one, and that's kind of how you can tell. Like, I think the more you pack on with the Huda, the more you pack on with the W7, the more it does look like the Huda. So I think there is like a major difference in quality between the palettes, but in terms of like the colours, not much, to be fair. I think the W7 ones are a little bit more sheer than the Huda ones, but I mean, it's not far off, right? Okay, now we're going to play with the shimmers in this palette. So I think from the W7 one, I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to take these both dry just to see if, I don't know, one performs better than the other. And I'm going to put this in the middle of my lid. Okay, so I've just applied this with a brush and my finger and it's quite sheer. So let's see what the Huda one's like. So I'm going to take the matching shade on the Huda side. And let's see if there's any difference in the shimmers. That's normally where you can tell a difference between high-end and cheaper palettes. Yeah, you can tell right away that this is better quality than this shimmer because it's just so much more opaque than this one. The W7 one is it's just quite sheer really, whereas the Huda one was much easier to apply and it was a lot more pigmented, and this is dry as well. So yeah, there is definitely a difference between the shimmer formulas. So as I said, I think that's where you can like tell mostly whether a palette is high-end or low-end. So let's put a colour on the lower lash line. From the W7 palette, I'm going to take this brown here. That is quite pigmented actually. I'm very surprised with that. From the Huda palette, I'm going to take this shade here. I think they're both pretty pigmented. There is a slight difference in tone, but far away, would you even notice that? I don't think so. So they're pretty bang on, to be fair. I'm quite impressed with that. For my inner corners and brow bone on the W7 side, I'm going to take this top one, of course. Not bad actually. And on the Huda one, I'm going to take this top shade here. The Huda ones just feel so much more creamier than the W7 ones, which I did expect, to be honest, because the W7 shimmers are not the best, but it doesn't look too bad. I think they look pretty close, to be fair. The shade is definitely kind of the same. I think it's just the difference in formula you can definitely tell on both sides. But please look at my eyes right now. Do they look too different? I need you to let me know down below in the comments, because far away I just really don't think you'd be able to tell that these were like two different palettes, because they look pretty similar to me. So those are the eye looks complete using both of these deeper palettes. I'm going to hop off camera and do my lash mascara and lipstick, and then I'll be right back with my final thoughts. Right guys, so I'm back. This is my completed look. For my lashes, I have the style Dream by Pound Lashes. My mascara is I Heart Revolution Chocolate Dipped, and my lipstick is I Heart Revolution Salted Caramel. Again, been reaching for this so much recently. I really like it. Now these are the finished looks. Let me know what you think down below. Do you think they look very similar? I'll give you a little close-up in a minute, but I would just love to know your opinion. If you think they look the same or you don't think they look the same, please just let me know down below. From up close, I think they look pretty similar, to be fair. I think maybe the only difference is that the Huda one is slightly more pigmented on this outside area, whereas this one isn't. But in all honesty, I could not tell if these were two different palettes, especially when you just look from a distance. They look really similar. All I'm saying is you don't have to spend £27 if you want to create a nude look like this. You can just go to W7, buy their nude deep palette, and you'd get a really similar look. As I said earlier, there is a slight difference in formula when it comes to the shimmers especially, but that's expected because you're paying £5 for one palette and at £27 for the other palette. So I knew there was going to be an obvious couple of differences between the palettes. Do you think anyone's going to look at your eyelids and go, no, that one looks sheerer than that one? I don't think so. So I'm definitely going to call this palette a dupe for the Nude Rich palette by Huda Beauty. They look so similar. The other palettes as well, I feel like you're going to get similar results. Obviously, I know I haven't tested the other palettes up against each other, but I mean, just based off of this one palette alone, you can definitely create similar looks using the palettes. I just think the obvious differences will be the formulas. The mattes, I mean, they are really beautiful and pigmented, but definitely the shimmers you'll be able to tell. But that's pretty much it. Like, I honestly don't think you would notice. If I went out like this, I don't think anyone would notice that I've got two different palettes on my eyes, because they do look very, very similar. So I'm really happy with these. I think you should go out and check out the W7 ones if you haven't picked up the nude ones by Huda Beauty. I think if you've got these ones, you don't need the W7 ones. But if you can't afford to buy the Huda nude palettes, then I definitely recommend checking out the W7 ones, because I think they are really nice dupes for the Huda ones. They are really beautiful palettes, nice, really everyday nude palettes. They are stunning. So I highly recommend the W7 ones. Even the swatches were really impressive from a £5 palette. So I'm pretty happy with the W7 ones, and I'm definitely going to call them a dupe and dupes of the Huda ones. That pretty much rounds up my thoughts and opinions on whether I think the W7 nude palettes are a dupe for the Huda ones. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by smashing the thumbs up button. Let me know down below your thoughts and opinions on these, and whether you think that they're dupes for the Huda ones as well, because I would love to know. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe down below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!